Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 474. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week we're talking about Blinx the Time Sweeper, and I'd like to know, Matt and Mark, when you think of the original Xbox, what's the first title that comes to mind that isn't Halo?
Fuck.
Well, now we gotta sit here. I think. No,
I know
got it.
mine.
Go ahead.
Go.
Fusion Frenzy.
Motherfucker, now I gotta sit here and think again. Oh, man, it really was Fusion Frenzy. Oh, you know what? Unreal Championship.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's pretty, yeah.
Next answer would have been KOTOR. That's where I played it originally.
I wouldn't have thought of any of those, surprisingly enough. But mine is Oddworld, Munch's Odyssey.
That's a good one.
Is perpetually, like, when I thought about, I want an Xbox, I want to taste the Xbox. Did you also have that feeling that Xbox had a flavor to it, or is that just all me?
I think it...
Not that it literally, I'm not a complete fool. I didn't think it literally had a flavor, but there was something about Xbox entering the market that seemed like, maybe
it was the green goop at the beginning.
Yeah, there's
And
something
then-
about that.
And Mountain Dew and just gaming energy at that time.
Yeah, the whole Munch's Odyssey, marketing was basically a Mountain Dew knockoff ad. And then...
Yeah.
It's probably why you thought there was a cup holder.
No, I promise you I will find that magazine one day. Why do you think I look through old video game magazines all the time? You think it's because I'm reading stuff and enjoying it? No, I'm perpetually,
Chasing the
endlessly looking for that ad. If you, listener, are out there and you're like, I loved the original Xbox, I collected every magazine that had to do with the original Xbox launch, and you know what I'm talking about, please let me know. It sucks because I read very few, or rather I had a limited scope or range of video game magazines that I would pick up. So that would make it easy to narrow this down, right? All I got to do is just find one of those few that I'd look through, narrow it down to the range of time in which they would have been doing an Xbox preview. Boom, you got it. Except I have a distinct memory of being in this one kid's basement when he got the Xbox, looking through the magazine, like it was his magazine. Who knows? But if you're out there, kid, now grown man, and you still have that magazine, hit me up. Or, yeah, if you remember it was a magazine layout that had a diagram of the Xbox, and it showed you what each component was, and it was like half serious, half not. And it showed the little Xbox green circle in the center of the console, and it had a little diagram indicator saying cup holder. And I need to know what that magazine was. I can still smell the Xbox of that era. I don't know why. Anyway, that was the time. I do have an article on thefreecheese.com that I'll have to look up the exact title of, but it's all about that kind of Xbox feeling from way back when. You guys know what I'm talking about? I wrote it not long after getting an Xbox One and revisiting I was going back through that whole original Xbox catalog kind of stuff. I was playing Halo for the first time. Maybe it was just Halo. I don't remember what else I was playing. Yeah.
I feel like you were trying a bunch of
Anyway,
things.
Yeah, I went through a good bit. Before we jump into Blinx specifically, is there anything original Xbox? When you think of Fusion Frenzy, Matt, what comes to... Was that your go-to game? Is that what you think of with... Well, I guess you both think of Halo, because I made you not think of Halo, but...
No, I mean, I just remember, it was in the age of... the Xbox had 4 controller ports, and so it was easy to do a party game like that and get everyone playing or whatever. I probably... So I never owned the original Xbox. That's the thing here. So it would always be at a friend's house. So I just remember lot of playing that when it wasn't Halo, but it was mostly Halo.
I didn't play that one until Xbox One. I missed out on that whole Mountain Dewification of life. Mark, what about you? Was that Unreal? Was that the go-to?
It was for like a weekend or two at my friend's house. Like between, I told a story a couple times where like, my two brothers and we each had a console from that generation. So Xbox, PS2, GameCube. I had GameCube. But my oldest brother, Michael, had the Xbox. But he lived in Westminster at the time. And so, if not up there doing the LAN parties with Halo, I would go to my one friend's house, and he would have an Xbox. And we would just kind of cycle through games, and Fusion Frenzy was one of them as well. Halo. And they also had Unreal Championship, and there was just a whole weekend of playing that mostly, and that was pretty cool. And I believe we mostly did Capture the Flag. So
there's nothing better than that classic like CTF arena shooter style thing.
Agreed.
Which we still need to check that out in that Quake remaster, but it's for a different day. I found the article. It's called The Alternate Timeline on thefreecheese.com. I will link to it in the podcast description and on the post on thefreecheese.com just for fun. If you want to check that out and read some words I wrote a while ago about not experiencing the Xbox. Did either of you have fond memories for Blinx the Time Sweeper from your respective visitation rights with the Xbox?
Probably just marketing. I remember seeing it in magazines. I remember like seeing little G4 clips here and there, and then I have never gone beyond that till now.
I like slightly remember this cover, or the box art with that guitar looking Catman.
Yeah, it does look like he's got a guitar with his time sweeper, if you will. Well, let's dive into Blinx the Time Sweeper, developed by Arttoon, published by Microsoft Game Studios, released on the Xbox, only on the Xbox. First released in North America October 7th, 2002. Your back of the box quote reads, "The first 4D action game ever, only on Xbox. The fourth dimension is time, and Blinx has it at his command. Pause, slow, fast forward, rewind, and record in more than 35 warped levels to rescue a princess, prevent a time disaster, and save the world." Is that the end of it? I have more written, but that was the end of the box, right? I feel like I'm bleeding into my notes. Or do they actually say this, or is that me? No, that's it. Okay,
that's the paragraph. Yeah.
I kept my notes too tight, so I thought it was anyway. Yeah, there's more stuff on the back, some screenshots of what you might be doing if you play that long. A little bit of a breakdown on how time controls, although they leave out pausing, so there's that. I guess let's set the stage real quick. If someone's never played Blinx the Time Sweeper before, you play as the titular Blinx, he's an anthropomorphic cat. More on that later. You have a vacuum, so to speak, known as the Time Sweeper, that you use to clean up trash around each level. The trash can be used as weapons, and trash has different tiers of rarity as well. So if you complete the stage with certain trash on hand, you get rewarded with cash on hand. In addition to the trash, so every stage has a number of monsters you must defeat before the final gate opens up to let you complete the level. And you use the trash you suck up to shoot back out at the enemies to defeat them one by one until they're gone. There's a few surprise enemies that will pop up that don't count towards your total completion of a level, but they will reward you with some extra gold or things like that. You want to collect gold because in between stages, or in between every second-ish stage, a shop will unlock that you can visit and not ever be able to afford anything. And then within each stage, the big part where Time Sweeper, the timepiece in Time Sweeper, is every level has a series of these collectible gems, or crystals as they're called. The crystals, by collecting 4 of them, grant you with a power or an ability to manipulate time in one way or the other within the world itself. So broadly speaking, if you collect 3 of these crystals, and then a 4th just to complete your counter, you will unlock a single power-up tied to the predominant crystal color you collected. If you collect 4 of the same type, you get 2 of those power-ups. So for example, if you pick up 3 crescent moons and a star, you're going to get the crescent moons power-up, which is Paul's. If you collect 4 crescent moons, you'll get 2 pauses. If you collect 2 crescent moons and 2 stars, you get nothing. It's a bad crystal combo.
It's a bad combo.
Bad crystal combo.
Which eats up
the
crystals. No way to get them back or sub them out once you accidentally picked up one because they fell too close to one another in a weird corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, especially when you need
a record.
Diamonds to record your actions to climb up a thing and stand on a button, and you do that, and then there's no way to do it, and you have to start the level from the beginning, and you do that 4 times.
Yep.
Bad crystal combo. Did I hit all of the major gameplay mechanics so far?
Oh no, there's a time limit on the stages.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Every stage has a 10-minute time limit. So if you do decide to backtrack to see if you can locate long lost,
or just take your time,
suck
it up trash,
you can't do that,
or struggle to get a record because you need it for that set button.
So as you complete stages, you do get a ranking based on a number of factors, but mainly time, how quickly you completed the level. I thought when I was getting close to that 10-minute time limit that perhaps it would cross over the 10 minutes and I would just get a bad score. But no, you get a game over.
Yeah, it made it seem like a par score on the main menu, but not a time limit.
That hasn't... I didn't know that was a thing in this game. But I haven't experienced something like that since, like, classic Sonic games.
But even classic Sonic games...
You lose a life at 10 minutes.
You do, but you only spent 10 minutes in a classic Sonic game because you wanted to. You know what I mean? It was because you wanted to see...
Depends on the
anything
level.
Weird I can do. Yeah. But there's a lot of levels in Sonic games like that where you're like... You can see there's something like just above you. You want to, can I get there? If I start here and I remember toying around with that, especially in like Sonic 3 and stuff where things got a little wild and weird.
Yeah.
Never was it like a rare, maybe, I don't want to say never, but I don't recall a moment where it was like, I was actively trying to get to the end and couldn't.
Especially
like Blinx the Time Sweeper.
Yeah, especially when Blinx runs at a snail's pace.
Yes. I will say the one mechanic I did like, right out of the gate, Blinx has a double jump. Fantastic.
Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought when I rewound, it also rewound the time, like my total gameplay time.
It does. And when you do slow motion moving forward, that does some time manipulations. So yeah, there's slow-mo, and I think fast forward. No, wait. Slow-mo doesn't. You move faster. Time still moves at whatever incremental pace it would move. Fast forwarding does save time. That's the thing. Yeah. I don't even know where to begin with
First 20 seconds. Move the camera. It's inverted. Let me go to options to fix that. No options mid-stage. Okay, well, I'll figure this out at the end of the stage. Let's go to options. We'll flip it. It doesn't exist. Options exist outside the stage, but that option to flip it doesn't.
What year?
And then there's the controller layout that says normal alternate, but it doesn't give me a fucking button layout. So we can just start at the basics. The fuck are the buttons?
This was 2002, Mark. But yeah, you're right, Matt. Like that was my instinct. And as long as I played this game, for every level that I completed, for as much time as I put into Blinx the Time Sweeper, I never got used to it. Certain times when you play a game and you're kind of forced to, especially like when you do go backwards a little bit, when you start playing some weird PS1 or Saturn games that just have these bonkers control schemes, you adapt. You know that it's not whatever, but it works. Like I was just playing Virtual On, and it's just a weird control scheme. But it works for it, right?
I had no chance because I'm in the middle of another Rocket League binge, so I'm like just the camera, there. I'm so used to is not inverted, and I use it all the time, and it's I never had a chance.
Yeah.
I would end up going 75% the other way just to fucking spite.
No, yeah, I definitely struggled with trying to rotate the camera, but the game also like tries to follow you behind your back as much as it can at the same time, so it's just a weird. So to the game's credit, I think I did better not really manipulating the camera. Like by like stage like level 2, 1 through 2, 3, I was messing around with more so like letting the game's camera guide me along. And that seemed to work better almost.
I agree, and I think that one thing I noticed in that regard too is the kind of auto aim that was happening. Mm-hmm. It wasn't perfect, but there were moments where, more often than not, I'd say, auto aim kicked in to
definitely got you in the ballpark, which I appreciate it.
Yeah, it knew kind of to lock on to something.
Actually, it helped a couple times too. There was a level where it was like an enemy like up high that I didn't see, and it, like all of a sudden like walking the camera like wants to like drift that way. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh shit, there's a dude there.
It would pull forward or backwards sometimes, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was just fighting me, and then it was like, oh wait, no, there's a little floating bubble guy. I don't think there should ever be a such thing as a bad crystal combo. I think that every combination should work to do something, or
just let you save them up.
Yeah, or like it should be fun to collect single color combos, right?
What
if they were good?
So I knew this was going to be part of the conversation about the bad crystal combos, because that's a terrible fucking system and mechanic. But I think it could work if you were allowed to bank more than 3 things. Like, I know you can buy more. Like, I ended up getting the 4 by level 4 or something like that. But instead of setting the entire limit of just, like, you can only have 3 of these time features, where it could be, like, 1 rewind and 2 pauses, but that's it. Like, you can't have anything else. Just do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 across the board. So let me bank that stuff. I feel like that, if they want to do the combo system that bad, I think that's the better play, instead of limiting it to 3 across the board off the rip.
Yeah.
What Matt's describing, if you've not played it, is that you collect those moons, you get a power up, but initially you have very limited. You can't get multiples of every single type. You can't even have a single of every single type at the initial thing until you upgrade your storage for power-ups.
And I mean, that's a decent upgrade too. Like, you would need at least 2 of those upgrades to even have the chance at 1 across the board. And then, there's just segments where it makes sense to have 2 rewinds or 2 pauses. Like, that's
I think that stinks, but also I think that the randomizing of the power-up drops, of the crystals, I think that stinks, because it makes it such it's unpredictable, and it doesn't make it fun to collect those things. In fact, it makes it like a hassle, because you're the one you pointed out, right? The record option. There was that moment where like you literally cannot open these 2 doors unless you have 2 records.
So I
And
didn't do record. I
for
did.
the 2 buttons. You didn't
I knew you needed record. I didn't have record, and I wasn't restarting this fucking level. So
I played that level like 4 times.
I had 2 rewinds. So I went and quickly hit both doors, and then ran and then hit a rewind, and then manipulated the doors just enough for me to fucking squeeze out.
Cheesing it.
Yeah. So I think that's something about Blinx that I don't know if it gets talked about enough, but the idea of manipulating time in a game could be very cool. And there should be multiple solutions like that are maybe not always advertised, but at least acceptable or whatever. Did you feel like the game was letting you do that, or did you feel like you were breaking it?
Ooh, you know what? A bit of both. It's cool to have those abilities, and they do seem to work pretty well. And I think the game wants you to use them in a specific way, but you never do. You use it in your own way, and it still ends up working out being fine. And I think that's a plus in a way, even though it's probably not creator's intent and whatever, but it still kind of works out. Like sometimes like shit falls or like something gets destroyed and you got to rewind to fix it. But after time, I don't know why I'm even fixing it, because it's not like it was ever in the way to begin with. It's like trying to block a path when I can just double jump over it even after it's destroyed.
So I'm the idiot that ends a Dark Souls run with like 100 fire bombs because I feel like I'm going to use them at some point, and I never fucking do. So when you're only giving me 3 allotted things, like I'm going to save them and never experiment with them and never get good at them. And that's the problem. And now, if it was easy to, get back the bank, fine. But it's not. It's fucking impossible. It's sometimes impossible. It sucks. That system
I think
is
that's
so
a really
bad.
good point.
From the way, because like these levels are very digestible. I mean, I guess they sort of. I mean, well, they can be, or they should be more than.
Well,
what
they
they're
have
trying
to be. It's under 10 minutes, Mark.
Yeah,
right. But and I know we're going to be saying time a lot throughout this episode, but I know, just listener, we don't mean it in a punny way. I don't know a better word for it. And I'm usually the one that makes puns. I'm not doing that here. It's only one. This is pun intentional. But I feel for the whole time of it all, like it's like they're trying to prolong the gameplay. They're trying to get you like your money's worth. It feels like, because these levels are so digestible. It's like they want you to go back sometimes and kind of start over and pick up whatever was left behind, or go find the secrets. Those little cat eye medallion things, or you come back with better gear because for some reason you want to go back to a earlier level with better. I don't, but they want you to. So it seems like they were trying to make the game feel longer than what it really is, and this is just not a good way to do it, especially if you have to go back and collect crystals for a combination or something.
That was actually going to be a question I asked, because when I stopped playing, it ended in a terrible meltdown without having records available in an area, and I already had to restart a level 3 times due to a time limit, and going the wrong direction, and then going the wrong direction again, but thinking I had, So when I stopped playing, I yeeted out of it, and I did not care to do much more research for this game, because I fucking did not want to give the light of day anymore. Did you end up having to go back to collect medallions at some point? Because it felt like that was coming.
It never felt necessary to me, but
right,
no.
But like you get to something like, think back to like Billy Hatcher, right? Like you can progress through the game, but then all of a sudden like you hit a gate where you're like, all right, well, you kind of have to go back now. It felt like, because of those hidden ways, the fact that you were upgrading the vacuum, and the how to beat time is 10 hours on average and not like 4. I had a feeling that backtracking element was going to come for those medallions. Because there's like multiple medallions on each stage, if I'm not mistaken.
It's about, I thought it was like maybe like 3 per stage or something like that.
Yeah, I only ever, like, if I collected it even, but like I've only ever saw 1 per stage.
there was one that I purposely ignored because it was I knew that if I went to go jump and get it, I'd have to start that whole level over. And because Blinx is
Was
so
it
slow,
the level with the sand?
No,
falling?
it was it was in like the Italy looking area, like
Oh yeah.
where
Okay.
you're on the rooftops, and if you clear across to the other side, there's a cat medallion. It's like right towards the very end. It's like there's the exit, and then you could get the medallion. I chose the exit because I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I know once I get this medallion, I have to go through all that again, and I'm just not doing that unless I was faster, and I'm not. So
No, you made the right call. I looked it up, Matt. So I never hit a point where I needed to go back and get them, but I'm confirming now that you do not need to collect them to progress through the game. However, they unlock prizes,
Fantastic.
which are usually short clips or concept art.
Okay.
If you do collect every single one, you get a special sweeper that sweeps up any type of trash very quickly, attacks with fire and ice, and sweeps fire, water, and sand. It costs 90,000 gold and is available at the Round 9 shop.
So you
Should've
unlock it
started
and
with
have to buy it. What the fuck? That's not even cheap either. That's like, God, it took me forever to save up 3,000 for the next vacuum.
they want you to grind.
I
Yeah.
think to kind of further Mark's point here about the slowness of Blinx, I think that's another thing. Is it's not just Blinx running that feels slow. It's everything. It's the sucking of each individual trash. Like is unnecessarily like 3 seconds long.
Yeah.
And then like on top, so you have the slow travel. You have to constantly keep sucking up trash because you need some kind of ammo, or if you want to bank it for gold or whatever. But you need something. But then, like on top of that, you're like looking at your crystal combo, and you're like kind of surveying the area. Like, all right, I have 2 moons. Is there another one around so I can fucking bank a pulse? Because they seem to be the most useful thing in enemy encounters if things get dodgy. So you're kind of scouring the area for that, walking around into weird crevices because the camera doesn't get in there. I mean, but that's just, that by design. And then, yeah, so like you take all those things that just are just slow inherently and you add them together. It's just a slow paced game. And this doesn't feel like it should be a slow paced game. And I think that's, besides the crystal system, which I think there were ways to get around that, like I said earlier, but I think that's this game's biggest problem. It feels like it should be an arcade game, a platformer. It doesn't have to be as fast as Mario or something, but like give it a little bit of pace, like Jak and Daxter. I feel like Mario moves a little bit faster than Jak and Daxter did. But Jak and Daxter has some maneuvers as well that you could like speed up, like that roll jump thing, or whatever. But yeah, he just needed some maneuver things to make him go faster, or just speed up the gameplay in some way. Like make it easier to vacuum. Make it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The game being slow was a problem for me too.
And you don't even need to actually make the character move faster on screen. If you do some tricks with animating the way that Blinx looks and moves when he's running, it would give the impression that he's moving faster than he is, and it would not. Yeah,
Right,
it would still
right.
work. But he's just
Yeah.
so static and like stiff throughout everything. It's a shame.
I think my biggest gripe with this game is when you get hit.
God, I
That-
completely forgot about that. It's the worst.
Yeah, especially during a boss fight. Like as soon as you get hit, so the default is you start with like 3 or 2 hearts or something like that. And every time you get hit, it rewinds it shows you the mistake you made in reverse, and then wants you to potentially make that mistake again, because the enemies also get reversed, and then they can repeat the same thing. So I understand the concept of that. It wants to give you a second chance and to avoid it, and it is possible, but it's not easy. And sometimes you just waste all your hearts trying to avoid this one like hard move that a boss is doing. It's hard to avoid, and then once you lose all your hearts, then you got to start over from the beginning. Like there's no checkpoints or anything. It felt very like handholdy or forced, with the result. Like, I like the concept, but with the execution, it's not great.
That was why I ultimately stopped too, was the heart system. Because I had no hearts, and I was like, I'm not going back through and finding hearts in
You gotta
whatever.
buy more.
And then the biome is expensive. Everything was fucking expensive. Dude, inflation is on the rise in the United States. Fuck that. Blinx's economy is through the goddamn roof right now. You can't afford shit. Good luck trying to find fucking ramen in that economy. Fuck. God damn. Everything.
And they want you to collect so much trash to trade in for gold. I like that idea too in a game where it's just like, all right, you take it with me, it turns into gold, whatever. But yeah, this is basically setting you up for what it's like to be in poverty.
It feels like I'm collecting cans to trade in for 25 cents.
Well, so I never paid much attention, so this is my mistake, but you can only cash in a maximum of 5 things at the end of the level. It's like automatic cashing in. I'm
right.
You need to upgrade that, right? It's not
right.
Because what would be really cool, what would be really like I think a good idea is if at the end of a stage it tallied up everything you collected throughout the entire run and said, look at all the trash you picked up, because that would encourage me to pick up all the trash in the level.
And it would add to the sweeper of time sweeping.
Yeah. I guess Blinx don't care about time.
I was going to say one thing about the heart system before I went off on a tangent about inflation. I almost wish, so there's some, in MOBAs, there are some, I think in other games they do this too, there's some cool characters that they're like special. One of their like techniques is to reverse time and kind of like warp back to the original position, but it also warps back their health at that point. So if you kind of run in, as long as you don't die, you get down to 1 HP, it will suck you back. And then, you're back to wherever your health was when you either started it or to the point where the suck kind of happens or whatever. But like, I almost wish there was not necessarily like a heart system maybe, or maybe do a heart system so that way, you take a hit, you blink, you do your traditional, like you blink, you're invincible for like 3 seconds. And then you just keep playing. It doesn't stop. But I almost wish there was like another type of rewind that allowed you to get like a heart back, and maybe that's a little bit harder to get than the other ones. But like, again, if you didn't limit it to 3 and you kind of had like 3 per or something like that, it was almost like an extra like 3 hearts if you were clever on how you banked it or whatever. I see that in other games as a cool way to regain health using time manipulation. I kind of wish this would have had something like that. I think that was a missed opportunity. I know they did the rewind thing on the retry, but it breaks the flow of the game so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this developed by Artoon, this is not Artoon's first game, but Artoon was founded by Naoto Oshima, famous for creating the visual look and design of Sonic the Hedgehog, among other characters. But for a while, if you kind of look behind the scenes, of course there's a lot more, but Naoto Oshima and Yuji Naka were synonymous with one another in so many ways. It was like Oshima was the person giving life to the characters, and Yuji Naka was the, wizard programmer making all the things come to the screen. And this is an example. I'm sorry that I'm taking us here, but I kind of have to take us here. We looked at Billy Hatcher as the very first game this season, and there's a clear difference between Billy Hatcher and Blinx the Time Sweeper. And I think that, especially when we look at, we've talked about this in the past, where we talked about Sega versus Nintendo in terms of polish and things like that, and where Nintendo will just work on a game for 26 years before releasing it, just to make sure that it feels right, where Sega will, and by Yuji Naka's own admission, get to a point where it feels good and ship it. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, they were working on it up until 3 days before it was pushed to the printer. You know what I mean? Like, and within those final 3 days or whatever, the final week, that was when they decided to add the mechanic where if Sonic gets hit, he drops his rings and doesn't die. Think about that. Like, they do all that stuff right up until the last minute, where Nintendo would have an idea like that and then sit on the game for a year working to reiterate things and polish and whatever.
Man, Pikmin 4 is going to be the most polished game ever.
Buddy, listen. Just you wait. But I think that Billy Hatcher is an example where it was not a perfect game at all, but it was playable. And generally, I feel like it was fun to play. I don't think I had fun playing Blinx ever. It was something where I felt like, oh boy, I put this on the list for some reason. I guess I ought to keep playing it because I'm making Matt and Mark play it. That was my approach to Blinx this time around, where it was like, I was curious to see where it would go and if it would get fun, but I don't think I genuinely had a moment where I felt like I was having fun, which is, last I checked, the key of playing video games. Where Billy Hatcher, I did have a good time playing Billy Hatcher. Yes, it got frustrating. Yes, there were little things control-wise that were like, ugh, but you kind of forgave it because it was mid days of 3D platforming and still trying to figure that stuff out. This felt like it needed Yuji Naka. It felt like it got Naoto Oshima, not Yuji Naka. And
it definitely had the vibes of like a bad 3D Sega game. Like, it was giving me it was bringing up, sorry listeners if you're a fan, but Knights, that's a game I always wanted to like and could not get into just because of how obscure that gameplay is. And I just couldn't understand it as a kid. I haven't really gone back.
I still can't. As a 33-year-old man, I try to play it and I'm like, why did they make this?
It's for certain people. But like, it's
I've watched speedruns of it where people are like explaining the mechanics and trying to tell you how to play it, and then I go and I sit down to play it, and I just fall and die, and I don't get it. I don't get it.
But like, between that and like Balan Wonderworld or whatever it's called, it was reminding me of those games, and just wasn't helping its case, unfortunately.
So I actually, if you bring up Billy Hatcher, so I'm going to continue down its path. If you kind of bring up, in a hypothetical world, if both core mechanics are worked out to a degree that's likable and works well, and we think it's like decent, at least decent, I think I kind of like the Time Sweeper idea better than Billy Hatcher idea.
I don't disagree.
But like, so when I'm playing this game, the way I was kind of very like, if I invested a lot of time, I'm going to not want to play this game. So I just kind of took it in small little doses. So the first night when I picked this up, I just did the first world, which 20 minutes if that. And so when I put it down, I was, I talked about my first 20 seconds of experience, so I was like hesitant, but like I thought we were building something. I just thought like this is bad because we haven't put in every mechanic yet, and it's going to start happening in Worlds 2 and 3, and something's going to click here. It might not be great, but there's going to be it's going to feel better, and it never did that. And that's, I think, it's down to it's that crystal system. The crystal system, I think, is the way it keeps the power-ups at a limit. It kills this game.
Yeah, like, it felt like they just wanted you to just do more. It's like, oh, we're also going to make this part puzzle game in a way where you got to be careful what you collect. And it's like they just try to prolong stuff that didn't need to be prolonged.
Yeah, I'm just repeating myself now, but like, if I was able to know that, like, hey, if I use a pause and I can get it back within the next stage or two, confidently, I would use the pause and rewinds and all that stuff way more, and it would have made this feel like a cool like enemy puzzle game or whatever. But even half the enemies aren't even that fucking interesting. Let's just be honest. I don't know if they get cooler when you go along, but up to I will say through 4-1 because that's where I stopped. Nothing was fucking interesting besides that door and that guy flying out of it.
Yeah, like it's another game where like pigs are the enemies, so the main enemies anyway.
Everybody hates pigs.
Battletoads, Blinx, Link,
Star Fox,
Angry Birds.
Oh yeah.
And I think...
Do you hate pigs? Write in and let us know. podcast@thefreecheese.com.
I know who doesn't. Brit Fazio.
Shout out.
I thought you were going to say Nicolas Cage.
Oh, well.
Oh, man. Nice. So,
Those are
Blinx
good
did
answers.
see a sequel. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. But
did.
Blinx 2 Masters of Time and Space, which we'll, of course, play next year in Season 11. Oddly enough, so, yeah, Blinx 2 co-directed now. So Blinx 1 was directed by Naoto Oshima. The sequel co-directed along with Takuya Matsumoto, who had worked as one of the key programmers for the original game. And due to the intense involvement, decided to kind of co-direct. The game is actually a lot bigger, the sequel, in terms of new gameplay styles, new stories. There were 2 individual stories because you don't play as Blinx in this game.
He's on the cover.
Yeah, he sure is. He's only only shows up in cutscenes. You choose between 2 teams of 4 customizable characters, and you kind of jump between both sides as you play through the story. You can customize the characters in a hub world with outfits, accessories, etc. But yeah, these you don't play as dude.
Is it like the beginning cutscene in Blinx where it's just all the same character model at different proportions and same clothes but different colors?
That seems like it, yeah.
Man, it must be a common theme for bad games to have a titular character on the cover and not be playing as them. Final Fantasy 13 too did the same thing.
Damn.
We should do all those next year. That'd be a fun.
Oh yeah, just
at
least Blinx was short.
So check this out though. In its sequel, when shooting debris, the player can now lock onto enemies. The player no longer needs to collect the crystals in any order to receive a time control, but rather just collect 3 of a particular crystal.
Oh,
Some of these controls can be combined, allowing the player to use certain effects with each other, such as speeding themselves up with the fast forward while slowing the world down at the same time. So, seemingly the sequel did things better in that regard. Who knows what the execution actually feels like until we actually play it, but
yeah,
that one not.
I don't like they let off with the lock on. Honestly, that wasn't even a tough complaint from
No, yeah.
But whatever.
I didn't think so either. Yeah, it's a weird game. It only ever saw 2 titles. Both were on original Xbox. Both were directly backwards compatible in the Xbox 360, and the original is backwards compatible via the Xbox One backwards compatibility program, etc. Really fun fact not fun fact, I don't know. It's also available on Game Pass and through streaming, which I toyed around with that a little bit here and there, and even with touch controls on a phone, not bad. I mean, no worse than playing it for real on a TV.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But it was kind of neat to do that with touch controls on a phone and play an original Xbox game streaming, which is weird.
Also interesting around this time that, like, it's another game focusing on vacuuming.
Yeah.
I thought about that while playing.
Yeah, because
I'm sure that is executed way better than this.
Yeah, because with like Luigi's Mansion being like the other game I'm referencing here, yeah, just I think that's like right around the same time, if not the same year.
It's after Luigi's Mansion, though, right? Didn't the GameCube come out before? Yeah,
but it's like
that was
probably
launch
about like
title.
a year or something, right?
Yeah, it would have been just short of a year from the first release of Luigi's Mansion, but I wonder,
I guess it was just like a 3D thing that maybe some companies were just into that type of physics or something.
Well,
because I can
Mark,
see
I don't know if you paid. Mark, I don't know if you paid attention at the beginning of the episode, but it's 4D. Excuse you.
Yeah,
good
point.
You're right. I stand corrected.
But you're not like in a. I see where experimenting with gameplay mechanics in a 3D world where you start to think about push and pull and the physics of things and how you land on vacuuming as a concept. I don't know. So the game just turned 20 years old. We're recording this a little bit ahead of its anniversary, actually. So who's to say there was not an announcement of some sort of, maybe they brought the second one to Game Pass by now. Maybe I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Don't know. But I think with that, it gets us to our favorite part of the show, where we rank Blinx the Time Sweeper against the rest of our list. If you want to follow along with the list, you can do that at thefreecheese.com/thelist. Curious to see where we end up.
Are you?
With Blinx.
I scrolled a little bit. Don't know how much you all scrolled, but I certainly scrolled a bit.
So we have 36 games on here.
That is correct. Is it?
I mean, it has. Paperboy 2 is not a good game either, but at least like I can laugh. Like I can enjoy the game in a way.
You're right. And honestly, like, not that our individual ratings or scores weigh much in terms of how we rank these on a list. This was the first time I gave something lower than a 2 in my personal review.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, me too.
Because I think at lowest I've had some 2s on the board, but yeah, this was a hot 1.5 for me.
Oh,
so for listeners who have been following along, Billy Hatcher was usually the one that would be at the bottom of the list for a while. It was setting the bar, and then since then we have moved it up only by 2 spots, beating Cool Spot, and Paperboy 2 was last, and I think Blinx is going under Paperboy 2 now.
Yeah,
at least
I
with
think
my
it makes
vote.
sense. And knowing what we've got, not that we're going to tip our hand to the listener quite yet, Blinx is probably staying at the bottom of this list.
It's staying there. Oh, yeah, it's going to be the foundation to this house.
At this point in the year, I can see that happening very much so.
Yeah.
Someone had to be there.
It's true.
I was glad we
If
gave
you've not
Paperboy
played-
2 some justice, man. That didn't deserve to be the last.
Yeah. Yeah, Paperboy 2 is not terrible. It ain't great, but
It's
it ain't
not great,
terrible.
but again, laughs.
It has options
Ooh.
with its platforms.
I'm curious to see what happens, maybe not this year, but now next year with season 11, see what games end up swirling the bottom. I don't think I have too many that are, I don't know, time will tell.
I might have
suppose.
one that's straight in the gutter, guys. I'm not going to lie.
Well, we will see next year at some point. But next week we'll be back, right mid-October, with 999. 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors for the Nintendo DS. There's also a modern port of this game that has added voice acting. It's available on Game Pass with the aforementioned cloud streaming, which I poked at, and it's not a bad way to play it. So if you want to play along with us ahead of next week's show, I suggest you check it out. Nice little puzzle escape room style game before they started making escape rooms for real life and then for fake life back again. You know what I'm saying? So come back and enjoy that with us next week. Until then, thank you, ArtTune, for Blinx the Time Sweeper. Thank you,
Sure.
Matt. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next time.